Now, there are some underlying factors that's happened the last several years, and I want to point those out. And how Satan set up this L-shaped ambush. Now, I want you to look at the first picture there. I've talked about it. Liberal Christianity, taking the parts of the Bible that you like and ignoring the parts of the Bible that you don't like, coming up with your own definitions of things. But I think one of the things that we have to look at the Southern Baptist Convention on the national level, I believe they turned into a self-licking ice cream cone. So the Southern Baptist Convention has gotten too big. And in many cases, this self-licking ice cream cone, like you see there, that happens to organizations when they get so big that they start their own problems, and their problems are a result of not real problems, but problems you created. Kind of like you see in government, when government gets too big. Same thing happened in the Army when we were in Iraq. We would have these mega uber FOBs, forward operating bases. And then we figured out one day that we were spending more time and energy and money and resources and everything on maintaining these big forward operating bases than going out and fighting the enemy. And this is where I think we're making a mistake at the Southern Baptist Convention. You see organizations like the Ethics Religious Liberty, yes, that one, ERLC, that are, and you also see several offshoots of those that aren't part of the convention, but the ERLC is. And they have created so many problems, and it was a problem from the Southern Baptist Convention. They're part of the convention. Had some really bad leadership too. And see, here's the thing. Then you had this, and they colluded with places like SBC Voices and these voices for never Trumpers. And I'm not taking a side on Trump here, but you had so many under the auspice of Christian nationalism, and you would throw out these straw man votes, and you'd make arguments against them, where you would see things that were coming from the Southern Baptist Convention leadership, where they were teaming with very liberal organizations like the Gospel Coalition, which they are to this day, led by a very liberal pastor named Tim Keller. You had very liberal magazines like Christianity Today. Now, I will tell you guys, Christianity Today used to be a great magazine. It's taken a left turn like you wouldn't believe. Used to be, it was Billy Graham's magazine. Now, what happened was you had these Gospel Coalition, Christianity Today. You had several others like the Lincoln Project, and you had all these. They're kind of intertwining with leadership in the SBC. And what happened was these organizations took over the spotlight from the real work that should have been happening with the Southern Baptist Convention. And our leaders in the Southern Baptist Convention let this happen. They didn't speak out. We didn't speak out as pastors. And what happened was everything was now focused on this liberal leading culture awareness, Gospel Coalition, Christianity Today, ELRC, and it took the work and the focus off the International Mission Board, the IMB, and the North American Mission Board, NAMB. And in many cases, the Southern Baptist seminaries were in this bubble, and they were seeing all this, and they were loving it. And frankly, they had no clue what was happening to the people out in the hinterland. None. Second thing, I want you to see this picture here. You combine that with some very liberal partisan Democrats. You're looking at two guys here, Ed Stetzer and Russell Moore. Now, I'm going to tell you, Stetzer was at one time part of the Lifeway Publishing, part of the SBC, Lifeway Publications. Always pushing these, these never-Trumper, QAnon COVID lab in China. If you believe that the lab was started, the COVID was started in China, you're a racist. You're a conspiracy theorist. Ed Stetzer was all over that argument. You can see it in Christianity Today. You see it on Twitter. And then you had this Russell Moore, who, in my view, I'll just tell you straight up, he is a mainstream media darling, Democratic Party, and he had been in charge of the ERLC, I think since 2013. And I will tell you guys, he was extremely partisan. And I know that some people love him in the Southern Baptist Convention, but in my view, and a whole lot of other pastors that are kind of afraid to say anything that I've talked to, they believe that he has done more to hurt the gospel in the SBC more than any other person. He's a big never Trumper, always making these arguments on QAnon or whatever that is. I looked and studied, and I looked and studied at his investigation that the Southern Baptists did on him, and I thought they had enough to get rid of him, but they didn't. But thankfully, Russell Moore has left the Southern Baptist Convention and resigned. I truly believe that was a blessing, and you can't make this up. He's taking a position with Christianity Today. I mean. In fact, last night he was on the Communist News Network, CNN, and like this really has a lot to do with the gospel. It's the QAnon theories and other conspiracy theories, but this is where his head's been. And this is where the Southern Baptist Convention has been in many cases for the last, since Trump came in office. Now, you guys know that I will call out politicians, and you watch the podcast. I will call out politicians, and I will preach to the cows come home, okay? But here's the thing. You cannot be a culture person that calls out everything that you see and have a leaning as a Democratic politician, because here's the problem with Moore. He was a former Democratic politician, and he gets in there, and he makes this almost like a Republican versus Democrat argument, which I have no problem calling out. I have no problem calling out politicians. In fact, I do it in the pulpit all the time. But here's the thing. Moore's talking points were more from the Democratic National Committee and Bill Maher more than they were from the Bible. I mean, it was almost like it was the extension of the last 5 years of the Lincoln Project and the Trump haters. So you had this, so you caused this huge division that took away from the gospel and the Great Commission, because it's exactly what happened. If you don't think it is, I mean, we lost 435,000 members last year. Yeah. Not all of those were because of this, but I'll tell you, a lot of people out in the hinterland did not like this version of this left-leaning liberal gospel that they were seeing. Now, the second one, or the third one, I'm sorry, J.D. Greear. This was hard for me. You see that picture of J.D. Greear there. He's been the president of the SBC for the past 3 years. And I will tell you guys, I was back when he first was elected as president, I was not at the convention, but I was so excited to have him as our SBC president. And if I would have been there, I would have voted for him back several years ago. I would have voted for him. And he's a great preacher. I've read all of his books. And I had at one time a tremendous amount of respect for him. But I will also tell you right now, he has been the biggest disappointment that I've had in a person in leadership since I've been a pastor. He always goes back to this whole idea of trying to change the culture. But one of the things, and I've got to admit, we're all human, and I'm sure there's been people that have been disappointed in my leadership, but JD ranks up there. And I prayed for him. Our church has prayed for him. JD's problem a lot of times, and I'm just being honest, he likes to shoot and then he aims, and that's kind of a problem. He really tries hard to be popular and please people, and you see that with a lot of the SBC, the really, I would guess you would say the popular pastors in the SBC like Matt Chandler and David Platt. And I believe what's happened is their hearts are in the right place. And I'm not accusing these men, these God-fearing men, of being Satanist or any of that nonsense. Okay, but here's what I am saying. They got duped. Plain and simple, they got duped. And this leftward lean, and it's saying, especially with critical race theory, intersectionality, instead of saying, guys, we probably got this wrong and we need to readdress this, they just keep digging in and throwing rocks at people. Let me just say, as a Baptist for all my life, for most of my life, let me just say it was hurtful to watch this. And I had a whole lot of respect for J.D. Greear at one time. But I learned a lot. Like I said, I learned a lot from his preaching. But he got duped. And his pride, I think, and his ego got way out in front of him.